How does my hair look? Do you see fur on my shirt? I'm just embracing this Greek hair on it. Itchy, itchy, itchy nose. Itchy, itchy, itchy nose. Welcome back to the channel. We are talking about our song. I'm gonna get some chapstick. Dirty Beautiful is the first song that we're releasing. I've shown you on the vlog a little bit of the behind the scenes of some other songs that we've been working on in here. This is not the only group of people that have been a part of it. My corner, Garrett McKinney, Matt Vetter, Brett Ensley. If you haven't met my partner in music and life, this is STATiC. You've probably seen him in some background vlogs before. He's been on so many records, worked in Rick Rubin Mansion. This dude, goals, like goals. I really have been loving documenting the whole songwriting process. This is the first song that I've released personally. You have seen the behind the scenes, You have seen the behind the scenes of some other songs that we've been working on, Holy, Poetry, and a few other ones. We wanted to answer some of your questions about the song and talk a little bit about the process. It was a very unique process. One question I got was this your first song? And what sparked the idea to write it? I came from musical theater, and I never thought that I could write my own music. You've always kind of told me, you're like, you can write your own stuff. You're like very empowering in that way. I remember I was hanging out with our friend Stefan. I was backup singing with some of his shows, and I remember telling Stefan, I wish that I could write music like you could. And he's like, you can. That's what you were telling me.
I think in musical theater, what happens is the whole experience is the thrill of performing things that other people wrote, and it's all there. You had this view that you couldn't perform unless you were in something. I said, well, you could just make your something. Coming from a non-musical theater background, only coming from bands where we're just creating our whole world. Forget just creating the music, we're creating the way we look and our whole everything, the stage. So it's like the complete opposite. We had to be the visionaries. I don't know any other way, so I was like, well, why don't you just make it up? Not knowing that it might be different for somebody from an acting and a musical theater background where you have to become a part of it, opposed to creating your own existence.
He'd been telling me this for ever since we knew each other. It took me 3 years to actually start being like, can I write music? Can I create my own thing? It was just not anything that I've ever considered. When you're in musical theater, you're handed a script, you're handed a song. So to answer the question that I now forget.
First song you wrote, no.
No.
First song that you completed to make into a recording, yes. Most ready.
I feel like I was kind of writing a few different songs. It was the most ready. I was working with Brett, which is a friend of ours, so talented in so many different elements and instruments, but a big part of what he does is help musicians with songwriting. Initially, the lyrics were very obscure, and he's like, what does this mean? I said, of course it means XYZ. And he's like, nobody is gonna get that. What?
You're turning things on.
Oh, sorry. It was a consensus that we were all like, this is the most developed song. I feel like I used to think that when people wrote music, it was just like, write a song, release it. Write a song, release it. It's non-linear. There's a bunch of stuff and you
have a few ready and you try to figure out what's the best. Maybe there's one you're just super excited about and you go right for it, but there's no rules.
As far as what sparked the idea to write it, I remember I was listening to an interview with Michael Jackson, and he was talking about how his music and his lyrics come from a higher power. I have to agree with that. I feel like the purpose of the song happens upon itself. Sometimes I'll hear a word, like a few days ago I heard a word and I was like, that's a song. Sometimes I hear a phrase and I'm like, that's a song. And around that word or phrase, the story builds.
I've observed songwriting processes, but I know different writers, some really love that idea, like when you grab a word or a phrase and you start building on it and you could just keep circling it and then eventually it unfolds.
Yeah.
That's one way. That is one way of writing, where the phrase is the inspiration and then you design to the phrase. It's not every way. It's just a way.
That's kind of how it was with Dirty Beautiful. I either said it with you or I was writing it before one of our sessions, and it was just Dirty Beautiful. When I solidified that phrase, I was like, okay, now I have something to work with. If you're writing an essay, you have to know what the point is. Why are you writing it? And for me, it was Dirty Beautiful. That's why I'm writing it. And so everything around it just started building. It doesn't feel necessarily as much of a sparking an idea as much as it is, this is what has been handed to me. This landed on my lap and we're just gonna write around that. Another question was, did any parts or directions of the song change from when you first wrote it? Oh my God.
All of them.
Oh my gosh, yep. Especially because this was the first song we all, as a band, Sheesy's Fairies, were like, okay, we're gonna work on this song. The first time with anything is always a little bit messy in a good way.
From where you started it to when you went to Brett.
Yeah.
And then we started thinking about a style. It just started in a very Mediterranean kind of groove, feel, and melody because you were doing it by yourself, and then we just abandoned it completely.
Yeah.
When we bring in all these other elements, and then bringing in a real drummer into a room, especially one that's creative and has a whole different view set on what they hear, will always change something, hopefully always for the good. In this particular case, it was for the good. It was like the fire that wasn't there. Then once Mike started playing keyboards and it filled out some space, that also gives more permission for other things to open up.
Basically, the flow that we even have now is I'll write a song, I'll share it with him, and then I share it with Mike, who helps with a lot of the arrangement and the phrasing. Once that's all figured out, we bring it to Garrett, and we want to see what Garrett has with it. It's not necessarily play it like this. We want to see what he hears with it because he's very good at what he does. It's a very collective approach. I also think that's why the song is 6 minutes, because I remember when Garrett was recording it, he just kept going at the end, and we're like, okay.
The song was always tempting.
Yeah.
A long length. It always lived in that kind of way, but it
was very epic.
It's in a recording. You could change that, but he just told such a story at the end with the drums. Even laughing when we recorded, like, oh, we always cut it down. And we're listening, like, we don't want to cut this. He told such a cohesive story. It might have been the second take, maybe third take, where he's like, all right, that's the one. He's like, well, let me come in this end part. And he just punched in once. That's it. And I don't think they've been touched since.
The drums are definitely a very big story to this song. That's not the case for every song.
It was playing in the room. That's really what saved it.
A big part of figuring out the song too was the phrasing. Like, how do I say the lyrics? Do I say, you're just a dirty, beautiful, or like, dirty, beautiful. I don't know. There's a million ways that you can actually say it. And that was something that was challenging for me too, releasing the first song, because as somebody who likes to sing very harmonically and ethereal, and I'm just kind of like, just very floaty, there needed to be some solid direction in that, and that's what Mike helped with too. So to answer your question, yes, so many parts of this song change from when it started, and I think that's always going to be the case when releasing music. I do feel like this song is probably one of the songs that has probably changed the most. There's other songs, I write it, we get it, and we produce it, we understand the vibe. This one, it took a while for us to figure out the vibe of it. What was the process like from start to finish? Well, I started with literally a phone recording of the song. I'll try to bring it up and play it for you. It was on a guitar that I can't really play, so you could hear me like, ding! It's just really bad guitar. The lyrics were totally different. I brought it to STATiC. We were like, cool, we're gonna keep working on this. Then we moved to South Carolina, took a little bit to get settled in, and then I brought it over to Brett. He helped me work out the lyrics and solidify the actual storyline of the song. When you think about songs, what we were talking about before with lyrics, and you have this one focus message, dirty, beautiful, how you build things around that. The chorus is the reminder throughout the song of what it's about, and the verses go into more detail about what specific thing happened or what else do you want to say very specifically about this. He helped me piece that together.
He did a major thing. He's the one that took the progression and modulated it, and that's where you have that big explosive pre-chorus. He's the one who said, well, you could just move it here, and then he like moved it there, wherever there was. And then it just changed what you would have sung, and it created a whole, and it made the melody more, it opened up the melody in a way where it wasn't just droning in a Mediterranean style, which was fine. It was just that it needed a lift.
From there, we had many iterations of the approach of the song. We brought Garrett in. We had to perform the song at a show, so we performed it, and it's very different from how it is now, and that's totally okay.
Also, during the process of rehearsing it is where Mike realized you could take that same progression,
right?
And
yeah.
then he flipped it and focused. He focused it. He changed. Well, that's what Brett did.
That was Brett.
And then after that's all we had. As soon as it came back around to need a bridge, I'm like, well, I have my old chorus I did, and Brett heard it.
He wrote the bridge.
And Brett was like, I'm a sucker for bridges in Middle East.
You are just the missing piece. There's a big moment in the song, well, many moments in the song, towards the second half where I'm doing like, That is such a staple of the song, and the way that it got created was we were done with rehearsal. I was packing my bags, and Mike's like, hey, buy the keys. Yeah, what's up? And he's like, do, 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 do. And I was like, let me record that. That's amazing. I don't even think he said anything. That little moment made so much of the song.
I like to call it like the villain piece.
Very in my villain era.
Well,
very
not
much.
you as the villain. I would never have said that if I didn't have any exposure more recently to musical theater, but there's always like the one like big bombastic villain piece and it gets loud. I mean, even in like Little Mermaid, there's a villain piece. It's just monstrous. It's this giant sounds like boom down. Like it's like, you know, Godzilla's walking through the room and you know, it's kind of cinematic in an unapologetic way where like in a movie, there would be other things happening that maybe you wouldn't always do. There's no rules now.
You want me to get it?
Take a picture of him first. Cat's posing.
Destroying everything in sight. I feel like usually when people would hear the instrumentation of this sort of song, they would associate it with a Hayley Williams, like a really badass vocal. My vocal is very ethereal and not innocent, but more innocent than something that has more grit. It definitely doesn't have as much grit as some other vocalists. I think it's a cool balance of like ethereal and alt rock.
This is so hard. This is not an easy song to give it a specific genre
Yeah.
because of the fact that it sounds like it would be in some sort of film. When I think about this song and saying that, it's because of size of it is not standard. It would be something like in a film with either giant robots stomping on things. It's large sounding. The words there's like pretty strong statements in general. Like the name alone, Dirty Beautiful. Even if you're like wondering what does that mean, that is a strong statement. So if someone says Dirty Beautiful, you're just like, I don't know what to make of that. Regardless if it's a good thing or a bad thing, you're pretty convicted.
It's something.
But you're making a statement by saying something so bold.
Yeah.
There's other lyrics in there that are very direct and bold. I didn't have to really think about the lyrics too much anymore because it had bold things. The lyrics were quick to understand.
Putting out your lyrics, even the first time singing my own lyrics in a room with people is so scary. This is about experiences in my life. Putting that in a poetic nature, in a way that I almost romanticize it, even if it's negative, is very vulnerable. And I still feel like I listen back to some lyrics and I'm just like, oh my God, are those right? Are those okay? That's the thing about the arts and music and everything, is that literally anything is okay.
The cat is actually...
He's now posing in front
of the light, so you'll see his...
the light. I'm getting more and more comfortable with it with each song. I'll sing songs to him, I'll sing songs to Mike, and they're my lyrics, and it's vulnerable, but it gets easier. But man, even listening back, ooh, is that lyric right? Is that lyric too weird? Is that lyric too abstract? I'm still working on telling myself that it's okay. I always like to remember the Cocteau Twins, and their lyrics are nonsensical. She would pull words out of a dictionary. I think that's why a lot of people find solace in the arts, is because there are no rules. There's no right and wrong. You should like know how to play a guitar and everything. Quoting Cocteau Twins, Elizabeth Fraser, talking about her lyrics. I'm not ashamed. I mean, even in the studio, there's been words like actually singing Peppermint Pig, singing about runts and things. There's definitely some words that are very embarrassing to sing. The words that are on the sleeve of Head Over Heels, there's bound to be people who hate them. I'm very proud of them, but I've always said I didn't want them to be a letdown to people. If you are watching this and it has likely already been released, go ahead and check it out. I definitely want to take you more behind the scenes in the future with some more stuff. I look forward to bringing you over to Mike's house and all of that stuff. We will see you next time. Bye.